Welcome to the latest Oakwell update with myself, Callum Cooper, and Holly Sandy.
It's great to be back on the pod this week, and we're going to be discussing everything that's happened, which it's been hectic here, hasn't it, here at Oakwell. We've had 2 games so far, and a third is coming up on Saturday, where we play Bristol Rovers, but we'll come back to that a bit later on. Firstly, Callum, what's your kind of analysis and what's your thoughts on Saturday's game and, of course, Tuesday's?
Yeah, 2 big games, obviously, at Oakwell. We'll start with Saturday. In the end, it obviously was a disappointing result against Wigan, wasn't it? A 1-0 defeat, unfortunately. Obviously, not to make excuses, but the weather conditions were really, really poor. I mean, everybody involved at the club did a fantastic job to get that game ahead. 2 pitch inspections passed. The weather was really, really poor. And I'd have to say, I think it did affect the game. It really sort of hindered, I think, the entertainment value, made it difficult for both sides to play their natural game. And I think you could see both sides having to alter their setup for that game, really. It kind of felt like whoever was going to score the first goal would end up winning the game. Unfortunately, that fell to Wigan Athletic. They got a bit fortunate with that as well, a slip from Corey O'Keefe, which, no fault of his own, of course, and they capitalised on that with the cross into the box for Asgard to head it in. So really disappointing. Credit to the opposition, they defended well. Barnsley, really amped up the pressure in the second half, really improved the performance in the second half as well, and had a few chances. The sort of double clearance off the line, how that didn't end up in the back of the net, I've absolutely no idea. Credit to Wigan, as I said, that some really good defending in that second half, the latter stages as well. So it wasn't to be, unfortunately. Wasn't for the want of trying, of course, but we sort of chalked that one off. Move on to the next game, and I have to say, Tuesday night, I think it was a much better performance, much improved performance, and really, with the chances that the Reds had, they could have easily, on another day, had 4 or 5 in that game. Absolutely. They were undoubtedly the better team for me. They just didn't get the rub of the green, and that's kind of the story of the Reds at the moment. They're just not quite getting the look, particularly in front of goal, particularly in both boxes, to be honest, when conceding goals and getting a little bit unfortunate. I know it's easy to say that, really, that it's just a case of not getting the right look, but I think that is ultimately what it boils down to. Sort of agree with the manager that potentially Barnsley just need to be that little bit more clinical in front of goal. We had some big chances that Joel Pereira, the goalkeeper for Reading, made some big saves. But again, I think it's probably a 3 points that we should have got, deserved to get, and probably will regret not getting that, really, looking back on that game. And the players will know that, the manager will know that. Just conceding goal, not conceding too many chances, but conceding from those small amount of chances to the opposition, and it's frustrating. But I think the performances that we're putting in over time, and I think Davies Keeler touched on this in sort of after the match. He sort of said that the performances that we are putting in will eventually result in 3 points. The performances will eventually turn into the right results that we are wanting. So that's the positive. That's something to look at. You've got to look at these sort of results and take the positives from them. So hopefully we can do that, and I'm sure the team, the coaches will be doing that as well. It's promising. It's promising in terms of what we're seeing on the pitch. Like I said, it was much improved. We got a reaction for me, much better pressing. They got the pressing right for me on Tuesday night against Reading, and we actually scored the first goal from that as well, winning the ball up high from a Reading defender mistake. So yeah, much improved in that sense, but like for Reading's second goal, a scramble in the box, just a little bit unfortunate for me, just how it dropped to the feet of Sam Smith. So yeah, plenty to take from the game. A game I think Barnsley should have won. Performances are improving at home, which is a major thing, a major positive. So yeah, moving on to Saturday with the Bristol Rovers game, and hopefully the Reds can advance through to the next round.
Absolutely, and kind of going back to what you said about Saturday's game, I listened to Daryl's interview afterwards, and he kind of made reference to the conditions and said that he didn't want to make any excuses, which I thought was quite admirable because, I mean, watching them, you could literally see their boots sinking into the floor, and that must really impact a game. But in terms of Daryl, looking at his kind of subs that he made on both games, obviously that first one against Wigan, there was 3, wasn't there, quite late subs that he made, and then in the game on Tuesday, he brought on Cosgrove. What do you think of his substitutions, and kind of can you give me some insight into why he made those decisions, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like to see his approach to the game sort of during the game. He's really proactive. He's certainly a proactive manager that sees things he's not happy with in the game and acts upon that straight away. You know, he really, whether it's changing from maybe a back three to a back four, bringing certain players on. I think it was a quadruple change we actually made against Wigan to try and change the game. Unfortunately, it obviously didn't quite work out and Barnsley couldn't get that equaliser. But if he's not happy with something on the pitch, he certainly makes that decision to change it. The likes of Wakali coming on Saturday against Wigan Athletic to maybe try and control the tempo. Yeah, exactly. Donovan Pines, change of shape. Like I said, it didn't quite work out, unfortunately, but the fact that he's trying these things, he's not just happy to sit back and see where the game's going, see if Barnsley might nick something. If he's not happy, if he's seeing the flow of momentum not going in the way of Barnsley, he wants to change something. And we've seen right back to the first game of the season, he changed shape after around 30 minutes. He's not afraid to make those changes, no matter where it is in the game. Might be half-time, and he'll change it. So I think that's really, really refreshing to see. And I think over the course of the season, Barnsley will get a lot of points as a result of that, rather than just watching the game go on and hoping that Barnsley can get through maybe a period of pressure from the opposition. He'll see that, he'll look at that, and he'll want to change with it. Similarly to the game on Tuesday night, a little bit of a change in shape. As you say, Sam Cosgrove came on to add a little bit more of height in the box. Donovan Pines as well to maybe load that box as Barnsley looked to really put the pressure on. Reading sat back a little bit in the latter stages and got a lot of men behind the ball to try and defend that lead. And credit to them again, really good defending. But yeah, he wanted to get more height into the box with the likes of Mark Roberts with his longer throws in. And we had a lot of set pieces, to be fair, a lot of deliveries from the right hand side, corners as well from either side. And the likes of Connell and O'Keefe put in wonderful deliveries in 9 out of 10 times. So the height came on. Unfortunately, Barnsley weren't able to capitalise on that and find the likes of Donovan Pines in the 18-yard box, unfortunately, because we know what he's like in front of goal from a set piece. He's absolutely brilliant, and he's scored a number of Barnsley goals already. So, yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't to be the case. But, like I said, to reiterate, it's really refreshing to see a manager that can clearly identify the way things are going in the game, and he wants to change it quickly rather than just sitting back and watching. It's great.
One man who has been missing in recent games is Chelsea and US men's national team keeper Gaga Slonina. Lewis Robinson spoke to him exclusively for the podcast this week, and for those of you watching on YouTube, take a look.
Gaga, thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us on the Oakwell update. We're speaking ahead of Bristol Rovers this weekend. Not a match, of course, in your thoughts right now. You're out injured. Just sort of talk us through the injury and how the rehab is going.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it's a difficult injury for me. With it being my finger, it's probably the worst injury a goalkeeper could have. But the rehab's going well. You know, I'm still, working on the things I need to improve on in my game, which been doing a lot of distribution work, a lot of ball work. So I think when I'm back into it, I think those areas are going to be touched on and improving. So yeah, it's been going well. Trying to keep a positive mind. Obviously, not playing is difficult, but I think how you let it affect you is important. So been letting it affect me well.
Yeah. And interesting that you say you've been working on your game still despite not being playing. Have you found that you've seen a different perspective to football and your own game? Have you managed to have time to reflect and sort of look at things in a slightly different way?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think any player that goes through an injury appreciates being on the field more than when they're not. So yeah, for me to have that view, I think it's a really good thing, because it kind of gives you a stronger mentality to make sure to keep that number one spot when you have it, because you should never take it for granted. So yeah, I think it's just going to instill like a hard work mentality, which I've had, but I think it's just going to increase it even more. So in a way, it's trying to look at it in a positive way, this injury.
And as we're speaking, Thanksgiving, sort of that time of year, and obviously a big holiday back in the States. How has that sort of been, whilst you've been here? It's slightly different, I imagine, but still sort of nice to catch up with family, etc. on the phone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, speaking with my family on holidays, they know it's what I've always wanted to do. It's my dream to be here and playing. So it's difficult not being with family on those holidays, but it'll pass. Like speaking with them on the phone and being able to know that I'll see them again, like in the summer or whenever we have time off, is it's a good feeling. So yeah, I think we're all staying positive in these moments, especially with me being injured now. So yeah, they're my team, so they're gonna support me always.
And it's not a new phenomenon, is it? You've been away from home. You made the move a few years ago over to England, and then playing, of course, last season on loan in Europe. Just sort of how did you find that? You know, as a young man yourself, you're still very young. How did you find how did you adapt to living away on your own and sort of the side of the game that's not just on the pitch, you know, looking after yourself and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty used to it now, to be honest. It's been, like you said, a couple years, so I've gotten used to the feeling of, you know, having to spend some of those days alone on holidays and everything. But I was quite independent when I started playing for Chicago, you know. So I would say the first 2-3 weeks when I first moved over were pretty difficult. Just knowing that, you know, this is going to be my new home now. Chicago is probably going to be just a city I visit for a few weeks in the off season. But yeah, like I've said, I've gotten used to it now, and I think that's with time you'll adapt to anything. So yeah.
And do you think as a footballer, more than most people your age, you've had to grow up faster, you've had to learn things that a sort of normal person, in quotes, would have to sort of learn and think about?
I wouldn't just say as a footballer. I think being a young person, like with any type of job, if you have to move away from family, you know, be on your own for a little bit, you tend to grow up much faster than people who, you know, might go to college and stay with roommates or still live with their family. But yeah, I wouldn't just say it's just like a footballer thing, moving away from family and growing up quicker. I think that's with anything in life. Once you separate yourself and get used to new surroundings, then you tend to have to grow up a little bit quicker.
And last season, your loan spell at Eupen, just, I think, fair to say your most sustained period of football in Europe since the move over. How did you find that experience? You know, was it a lot different to what you expected, or did you sort of take in your stride more quicker than you thought?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience, you know, playing in like a European, my first European league. So I think I gained a lot of experience there, you know, being around and seeing how different the level is from like the, you know, Premier League 2 or like the MLS. But I think I used it to my advantage. You know, it was a difficult season for us, obviously, but there were a lot of positives from it, and I think that taking those positives away is what can make that, you know, season turn into a successful one.
And in terms of being here now, of course, another loan spell in Europe, this time in England, which is often sort of labelled the home of football and where a lot of players want to sort of end up and see it as the end result. You know, how does that sort of compare to the experience you had in Europe last season?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like it can be considered like the home of football, you know, the entire pyramid of teams. So I think for me, this loan here, you know, in England is a really important one for me to want to eventually end up to playing in like the Premier League at the top level. So yeah, I would say it is more physical. It is more, you know, mentally, physically demanding. But yeah, taking it in stride, trying to learn every single day on how to adapt and be better every single game.
With that in mind then, with the goals and aspirations you've got in mind for yourself, do you think that this is a sort of perfect opportunity for you at your stage of your career right now, playing obviously before the injury, week in, week out, sort of regular schedule, very intense atmospheres? Is this the ideal place to continue your development?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a young goalkeeper, you know, you're happy with any playing time. Obviously, I can see that now with being injured and not part of the squad. But yeah, I think it's a perfect place to develop my game and get used to the atmospheres. You know, how, you know, just the difficulties that you face in the season of like a English season, English league. So yeah, I think it's the ideal place for me to improve and learn and, you know, just get better.
Yeah. And you could also argue that you've learned more through this experience because, you know, very unique sort of position, isn't it, being a goalkeeper, because there's normally a team of 2 or 3 or 4 of you fighting for one spot, and of course is only one shirt available on a Saturday or a Tuesday night. Just sort of, what have you learned from this experience of being injured and sort of seeing Ben step up and do really well, which I'm sure you're really glad for? But it's a weird dynamic, isn't it, because you're all a team, yet there's only one person that can play.
Yeah, obviously the 3-4 guys you head out to training with all want to be on the field, you know, when it's match day. But I think that, you know, we have a really good group here, to be honest. You know, we push each other in trainings because, you know, if you don't help the guy in front of you, it's not going to get you to that point any quicker. So I think when you have a strong mindset, you back yourself. So you're gonna push the guys around you because you know that they're gonna push you as well. So I think it's just having that, not being super close friends, obviously, because you're fighting for one spot, but having that competitive drive in each of you to push yourselves and get better because, football is crazy. You might end up somewhere else next year, and you can use these moments to benefit yourself.
And how would you sort of assess, and what have you thought about our current crop of goalkeepers and working with James Bittner, of course, the goalkeeping coach? How have you found working with those guys, and sort of what have you learned from them, do you think?
Yeah, it's amazing, really, to see their mindsets going into trainings and everything, because they're from different backgrounds. I'm from different backgrounds, and I think the training sessions with Bits have been amazing. To be honest, they're really intense. They're very like match orientated. So you go into the match feeling good, and I'm sure that Ben has that same feeling. We touch on all the little bits that we need to be prepared for in the game.
And shifting the conversation to sort of back to your roots in America, of course, come through at Chicago, your home state team, and it's crazy, isn't it, the sort of explosion of the game that we're seeing currently in the States, and how popular it's becoming. Just sort of talk through your upbringing in the game in America, and sort of how different it may be if it was here instead.
Yeah, I mean, I love that my career started in Chicago. I signed at a really young age, and when I had first signed, I had just been playing with the academy still because I was still very young. And then I think 3 years after I had first signed, I made my debut, which was an amazing feeling. Obviously, I was on top of the world at that moment, and yeah, it was just it was a good experience for me to be in Chicago. I learned a lot, obviously, starting my career there. First few games as a professional, and yeah, I think it was just it would have been obviously a little bit different if I had grown up here. Maybe that path would have taken a little bit longer. Obviously, with England being such a competitive, country for football and for goalkeepers as well. So yeah, I'm really happy that it started with Chicago. Couldn't have asked for a better way to start my career.
And I know a lot of people sort of make this comparison between the MLS and the English game, and sort of often stereotypes that the MLS game is a little bit slower and it's sort of a retirement home for professionals who've played elsewhere. But that is really changing now, isn't it? The game in the MLS is much more advanced and much more fast-paced. As somebody that's experienced both firsthand, how would you sort of assess it compared to each other?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely growing a lot. I think with Messi coming over, obviously that the league took off. But I think that it's good to see that it's growing and everything, because obviously I don't want it to be viewed as like a retirement league or anything, because that's where I'm from. But yeah, it's nice to see that they're getting bigger players there. They're able to keep those players there and have good competition. So I think it's only going to get better every single day, every single year. I think they're gonna push it to become one of like a top league. So hopefully that can be a reality one day.
And just on Lionel Messi, of course, huge news, shockwaves around the world when that was announced. As somebody that's, like you say, cares deeply about the league, and I've sure got lots of friends and lots of colleagues who play in that league, how pivotal and how transformative do you think that one transfer would be for the American game?
Yeah, of course he had to come when I had left already, but yeah, it would have been sick to play against him. But yeah, I think a player like that, you see what it does to the entire league. Then you get other players coming over to kind of follow in his footsteps. You see now that Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets have also gone over. So yeah, I think a player like that with that type of caliber and what he's done in Europe it's great to see that he went to the MLS. Yeah, and so I think players like that, the more we can get players like that, not much players like Messi, but yeah, the more high caliber players that go to the league, they're gonna just bring more players over. So.
And we've seen the influx of American footballers into the English game as well in recent years, and not just American players towards the back end of their career, but American players who are really young and promising. And the MLS has provided a sort of really good breeding ground for those players, like Josh Sargent, Tyler Adams, yourself, Donny, have all come over at a young age and sort of shown that they can be more than match the quality in the English game. How promising is the next crop of American players, do you think, for the national team?
Yeah, I think it's super promising. I think the MLS is a really good, like you said, a lot of players can come from there and prove that they can do it in Europe. So I think it's only going to, improve and get better, and we're going to see more players coming over from the MLS to Europe and showing that they can do it also in Europe. There's a few guys on my team, Chicago Fire, young players that I can definitely see playing in Europe. So it's going to be good to see them, eventually make that move one day, or if they decide to stay in Chicago. But yeah, I think a lot of, probably all teams have a few young players that are stepping up now to the occasion and can do it in Europe as well.
Go on then, let's have Gaga Slonina's prediction for the next big American import into Europe. Who's the next big talent from America, do you think?
Honestly, I'll go with a guy from my hometown. I can see Brian Gutierrez playing in Europe for sure. So if he sees this Guti, you know what to do. But I know he enjoys it in Chicago, so he's doing well there now. So it's good for him to see him, getting regular minutes and doing well as well. So
it's on the pod now, so we know that if that happens, it's on record. And of course, talk about the young talent in America. A lot of competition in the goalkeeper department as well for the men's national team. Something I'm sure that's in your sights at the minute. Just sort of discuss the current state of play and your sort of goals with the men's national team.
Yeah, obviously it's nice to see that there's a lot of competition in the goalkeeper department because it's just going to push me to want to do better as well, which I'm sure it's doing for them. But yeah, I think each and every one of us have the goal to be the number one for the men's national team. If we're not having that goal, I don't think we should be professional goalkeepers. But yeah, I think it's always going to be in the back of our heads to push ourselves, do that extra rep to make sure we're improving and getting better. So yeah, it's nice to see that competition coming in.
And of course, a huge event for the development of the game, as already mentioned, will be the FIFA World Cup, which is coming to the North America in 2026. Just I imagine that you can only imagine and only dream of being part of that squad in there. But what's the buzz like over there? For this tournament, what's the sort of feeling? And I imagine it's one of excitement.
Yeah, definitely excitement. The goal is to be a part of that squad going into the 2026 World Cup. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. I think that it's going to be difficult traveling across the U.S. It's much bigger than people think. So people will definitely have to plan ahead of time. But yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing event. Leading up to it, it's gonna just create more excitement, and people are going to be buzzing to see the teams performing there and playing there. So yeah, I think the U.S. men's national team is already building hype around it. So it's only gonna get better and more exciting closer to the day.
And to sort of round off discussing your career, I mean, obviously at Chelsea at the minute, obviously a lot of talent and a lot of competition there at the minute. But I imagine that your desires and your goals personally will be to do the best you can, but also to prove what you can do at Chelsea as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the end goal is to be the number one for Chelsea as well. So I think that using this loan to push me to getting closer to that spot is going to be important. So yeah, it's just going to be day in and day out trying to get better, and like you said, proving to myself and to myself most importantly, and to everyone that I can also play at the highest level in the world. And yeah,
back to here then to finish off. Currently at Barnsley, of course, we're at Oakwell as we speak. Just things are going quite well at the minute. I think it's fair to say in the league we're in a good position. The form has been really good since the international break. A couple of sort of minor blips, but you could probably say we've been a little bit unlucky in the last two games. Just sort of, where do you see where we're at? You're in the squad, you've seen it, and you've also had the perspective of looking from the sidelines. How do you sort of see us going this season, and what do you make of the start we've made to the season so far?
Yeah, I think overall the start of the season has been good. Like you said, there's been a few blips, a few games where we've been a little bit unlucky. But yeah, I think we're showing that we're growing into being the team that we can be, being at the top of the league. So yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's happy with where we are now. I think we we do know that we should be higher in the table, and I'm sure the fans feel that as well. But I think it's just about, those games we play really, really, really well, building that consistency and, going into the next game with, just building on top of that, not letting us drop to, that unlucky game where, we don't finish a few chances or we have a few like defensive errors. Yeah, I think it's just, building that consistency now and, staying at a top level so that we can keep pushing to, get automatic promotion, because at the end of the season, that's the goal for us. I think everyone in the locker room feels that, the gaffer, wants us to be finishing, top or second to get promoted right away. Yeah, I think that's going to be our goal, and I think that everyone should be having that feeling.
Ambitious goals in the squad, which is good to hear. And this time of year in English football, really pivotal time. A lot of games, a lot of points to be won or lost, and it can be quite decisive in towards the league table when we finish in May. But we've got some really crucial fixtures coming up. If you look at the schedule, we've got Wrexham next week and then Birmingham, 2 teams that are up there, of course. How sort of important do you think this next month or two will be, and also how do you approach it as a player? Is it, I imagine, you're just raring to get out there and really excited to play because that's what you want to do?
Yeah, I think this month is going to be huge. You can really create separation and prove that you deserve to be in the top 6. But yeah, as a player, like, you look forward to these games, the big games that really matter. I think that's what we all play for, having that adrenaline before a game and, just being ready to perform and do well against, the top teams. Yeah, I think this month is going to be huge, for every team, because like you said, it's going to be important points that we need to win. And on the other hand, it's important, points that you might lose. So yeah, I think everyone that's, able to play is going to be looking forward to it.
This weekend sees another of Daryl Clark's former sides head to Oakwell. Bristol Rovers are the opponents in an FA Cup round 2 tie. Callum, how much do you think it would mean to the fans to be able to get to that 3rd round?
Yeah, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? There's no doubt about it. I absolutely love the FA Cup. I think it's fantastic, whether it's a lower league team, beating a Premier League team, the amount of giant killings that we've seen over the years, Barnsley being involved with them, of course, as well, beating Liverpool and Chelsea in the past. I absolutely love it. So for me, obviously, want to get as far as physically possible. And that sort of elusive 3rd round tie is really important, isn't it? That's when all the Premier League teams obviously come into the draw. So fingers crossed, Barnsley can secure that. And it's quite a weird connection as well, isn't it? We're obviously Daryl Clark, and you think of the cup competitions Barnsley have been involved in this season. We obviously played Manchester United. Daryl Clark's boyhood club. He's obviously a big fan of them. We played Port Vale, the former side that he managed, of course, in the previous round in the FA Cup, and now Bristol Rovers, another side that he's managed in his past, and he's had success at both of those clubs. So there's a weird connection there going on with the cup competitions and Daryl Clark, but obviously in the last round that worked in Barnsley's favour. So we're hoping it's going to be the same, of course, this time against League One opposition. So you can maybe say it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult game. They're 6 points behind the Reds at the moment, so they're having a decent season by their own regard, Bristol Rovers. I think they've got a decent manager as well in Matty Taylor, who it didn't quite work out for him at Rotherham United, but it was really, really impressive and did great work at Exeter before that. So they're certainly a good team. They're always a difficult side to play against. That's certainly the case. I actually think the game against Bristol Rovers at home that Barnsley played prior to the season, so Barnsley have already beat them. They beat them 2-1 here at Oakwell. I actually think that was Barnsley's, or one of the best performances we've had this season. Certainly the opening 30 minutes or so, I thought Barnsley passed the ball around really well. It was Davis Keeledun's debut as well, and he got a debut goal. It was, and a great finish. It's become somewhat of a trademark finish as well from Davis Keeledun, actually, that. So yeah, I think all things are pointing in the good direction, in the right direction. But as we know in the FA Cup, all the form books, everything, league table positions, they go completely out of the window, don't they? It doesn't matter if you're above them in the league table, in the football pyramid. It's whoever can turn up on the day and rise to the occasion. So hopefully Barnsley can do that. We know obviously about the home form, but I think performances have been slightly improving, of course. So hopefully we can just continue that and take that next step on Saturday and advance through to that next round, because like I said, FA Cup, it's fantastic, and there's some real tasty ties that we could get in the next round. So yeah, it's really exciting.
So Callum, that was a really interesting insight into Saturday, and we look forward to seeing how the lads do. But if we are successful on Saturday, who would be your dream tie?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great question, Holly. I've always wanted to see Barnsley play at the Emirates. Arsenal away, that would be a fantastic tie. Wonderful stadium, obviously rich history for that club as well, and I'd love to see Barnsley beat them as well. So that'd be mine. What about yours?
I think I would have to say probably Newcastle. Callum, we'll start with you this week. What do you think it's going to go like?
Ooh, putting me under pressure. Well, we've already beat Bristol Rovers, as we've mentioned, 2-1 here at Oakwell, so we're hoping for more of the same. I'm going to go with 3-1 Barnsley, I think.
This is hard because I really want to get one right. I'm going to say 2-0.
We due one. We are due.
We are definitely due a really good result.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. I've been your host, Holly, and joining me today was Callum Cooper. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.